Thanks, Warren, and hello to everybody. This first question that came in from Andy Sees. He says he's the owner of not nearly enough B shares. He says, Mr. Buffett, you're well known for saying to be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. But by all appearances, Berkshire was fearful when others were most fearful in the early months of COVID, dumping airline stocks at or near the low, not taking advantage of the fear gripping the market to buy shares of public companies at exceptional discounts, and being hesitant to buy back significant amounts of Berkshire stock at very attractive prices. I'd appreciate hearing your thoughts surrounding this time and how Berkshire approached its decision-making, specifically after it was assured through the CARES Act that the government would provide a robust backstop to the financial markets.
Well, of course, until both monetary and fiscal policy kicked in, well, you knew we had an incredible problem, and I am, just as Charlie is the chief culture officer. I'm the chief risk officer of Berkshire. That's my job. We hope we do well, but we want to be sure we don't do terribly. But we didn't sell a substantial amount. I mean, we're a company with probably $700 billion worth of businesses. Some we own in their entirety, some we own a piece of, and I don't know whether we were sellers of maybe 1% of the value of all the businesses we had at that period. But the airline, it's just kind of interesting with the airline businesses in particular, and then I'll get to what was done in fiscal and monetary policy. But we had a few people, various subsidiaries of Berkshire, that wanted to go in for help from the government. And in some cases, they had minority shareholders that owned a few percent. And they said, well, this, we're going to get killed by what's happening with the regulations that are being put out, and we're stopping the economy. And they said, everybody's going in for them, and why don't we go in? I said, Berkshire can handle it. This is for people that can't handle what's happening, and so we're not applying. But the airlines were the most prominent beneficiaries of what took place immediately. They got $25 billion initially, most of which went to the big four airlines, and some of which went in as grants, not loans. And I think that was fine public policy. I was wishing it could go to every restaurant and dry cleaner and every small business that really was out of business and had no. I mean, they were made toast of, basically. But the airlines, clearly, what happened was not their fault in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't like 2008 and 9 when people blamed the banks and hated to see them help. So it was. Now airlines operate in bankruptcy, so it isn't like that. Three of the four big ones went through bankruptcy within the previous 10 or 15. So the airlines were kind of used to operating in bankruptcy. They would have kept operating, but it was perfectly proper for the airlines to be helped. The entire airline business, you look at these figures of $2 trillion for Apple and so on. The entire big four airlines, they sold for about $100 billion almost. I mean, it's a very, very small. Combined, they wouldn't come close to making the cut. I mean, they wouldn't be in the top 50. So anyway, they went into the government. They needed government help, or they would go bankrupt, some of them, and really the Congress, but Steve Mnuchin too. They decided they deserved the help, which I do not quarrel with at all. But imagine if Berkshire was the 10% holder, which they had been, of everyone in the airlines. They said, "Take it up from Berkshire." I mean, it'd be like one of our. They might have very well had a very, very, very different result if they'd had a very, very, very rich shareholder that owned 8 or 9%. And they didn't have that, when they went in. So you might not have gotten the same result. In fact, I would think you probably wouldn't. I mean, I can just see the headlines now. I mean, because you've seen the headlines on some companies that took $100 million or $2, and really didn't need it, and some of them gave it back, and most of them gave it back. But you're actually looking at probably at a different result than if we'd kept our stock. But in any event, an industry that was really selling for less than $100 billion, lost significant amount of money. They lost prospective earning power. I mean, right now, international travel's not come back. But I would say overall, too, the economic recovery has gone far better than you could say with any assurance. So we didn't like having as much money as we had in banks at that time. So I cut back some of the bank investment. But basically, our net sales were about 1% or 1.5%. And looking back, it'd have been better to be buying. But I do not consider it a great moment in Berkshire's history. But I also we've got more net worth than any company in the United States under accounting principles, and we've got 600 or 700 billion of generally good businesses, and I think the airline business has done better because we've sold, and I wish them well. But I still wouldn't want to buy the airline business. International people really want to travel for personal reasons, and business travel is another thing. And we've got a big exposure to business travel, of course, through the fact that we own 19% of American Express, and we own Precision Cast Parts, which services the air business very. So we've still got a big investment in air travel, a big commitment to it. But we wish the Big Four the best, and I think their managements have done a very good job during this period.